Okay, Star Wars Battlefront. Let's talk about Star Wars Battlefront and not the things we were talking about before.
Battlefront 2, specifically.
No, I want to talk about 1.
No, you're right.
There's no more content.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tiny little squirt of news there.
A squirt?
Yeah, it's just a little
That's
squirt.
It's terrible.
It's not a full pump of news. It's a squirt of news.
I don't like that.
Tiny little news squirt. It's like a little...
Why was that?
That's it. It's the news. It's not the full faucet. It's not going... That's a faucet.
Right.
It's more like you just... Like when you're watering a tree, it's like... You squeeze.
That's not the noise it makes.
What?
It doesn't... It doesn't, like, release and then constrict. Kind of... Well, I guess it does. We just mentioned it, but with Battlefront that we have right now, Battlefront 1,
Yep.
the official Twitter account for EA said that that it confirmed basically that they're done. There's currently no plans to add any new content updates to Star Wars Battlefront. So it doesn't mean there couldn't be more additions, but for now, there's not really going to be any more. So it seems like they're revving up focus on 2, which I'm sure they've been focusing on, but it's solely on 2 in its marketing now, and not focused on its content for 1. So
I agree. That was my Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Sad fleck.
I agree. No, so we're in a weird mood today. So, yeah, that is worth mentioning that there's not going to be any more full-on content, at least according to what they said. No new plans. I would assume that means nothing. But they're going to keep supporting it, which I guess is like patches. Not a surprise. We loaded in the Force Unleashed today, which I played like a year ago, and there was another update to it. The Force Unleashed 1 on Xbox 360. So I don't really think it's a big deal to say we're going to keep supporting the game. Everybody does that.
No.
Nobody stops patching the game. But I think one thing worth mentioning about Star Wars Battlefront 2 that we read today confirmed is that there will be multiple Star Wars eras in the game.
Which is big news, because that's one thing that we were concerned about, I guess.
Yeah, because Galactic Civil War got really boring. Let's be honest. You have 2 armies to pick from. And, like, well, would there end up being 6 heroes on each side by the time all the DLC was done? And most of those heroes didn't matter.
No.
That was something we talked about, too. Is like, oh, you can play as Dengar. Well, cool, but, like, he only really matters in, like, the Clone Wars in a couple episodes, honestly. He's not, like, a character. He, like, shows up in, like, 2 scenes in the original trilogy. He's not worth being a hero.
Which it's, like, for the general Star Wars fan, why would I care?
You wouldn't. Know? And that's the problem with the original trilogy. It doesn't have that many memorable named characters. It has amazing designs. The few characters it has are fantastic. But people have latched onto these characters like Boba Fett, like Dengar, who else? Like Greedo, who only show up in like 1 or 2 scenes, and they're great, don't get me wrong. They're not a combat specialist that should be used in a military game like when they showed up in 1 scene.
No, not at all.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
And yet, people like Ben Kenobi weren't even in the game. Episode 4 Ben. He was in much more of Star Wars the original trilogy than Greedo was, and he wasn't even a hero.
Which is
Did you
really...
think about that?
That's crazy to think about.
He was in like 3/4 of the movie. And then he's a voice in the other ones.
Which would have been really cool to see him, actually.
Yeah.
In Star Wars Battlefront 1.
Yeah. It would have been easy to do, I think, too.
Gosh,
but,
that would have been cool.
That's the thing, is that like Star Wars Battlefront 1 is a fun game that ran out of content.
Just kind of ran out of juice. And I think
fast.
That's what makes this news... We were concerned that they weren't going to include the prequels.
We don't know 100% if they are, but we do know that they're including multiple eras.
It seems like that's a safe way to lean, is that they will include the prequels.
See, that's what I think, too. The only reason that I wasn't sure about that is the article that we were reading when we looked through these, and we can put the articles that we got some of this information from in the description just for citation, so that you guys can go read them if you want to. Some of it came from EA's Twitter, some of it came from multiple websites. So, one, trustedreviews.com, which, by the way, they're trusted. You can trust them. Put your trust in them.
Nice.
So, one thing that they said on trustedreviews.com was that EA has confirmed that Battlefront 2 will incorporate characters and elements from the new trilogy, so we can expect to see Rey, Finn, and possibly even BB-8. I don't think they'll have BB-8. That was just their assumption.
Which you could.
It's tiny. It doesn't make any sense. It'd be dumb. No BB-8. Put in like Poe Dameron. I don't even like him. Put him in there.
Wow.
At least he's a human being.
Wow, you got something against robots?
I do. They're not real people.
Wow.
So something that EA CFO Blake Jorgensen said was, there was criticism that they just wanted more. So we're taking that criticism to heart as we build the next game and trying to address any of the issues that they had. So they as the fans. Which...
The general public, basically.
The players, yeah. I mean, I guess I shouldn't just say the fans. Because, like... So they say it'll include multiple films. The only thing that I don't see is where they for sure say that it will include which era, you know? Because Trusted Reviews says that they said they'll include the sequel era. But I don't see 100% them saying that. I just see them saying they're including multiple eras. To me, multiple means more than two, right?
You would think.
That's what it usually means. So I would assume it would be... is all three of the eras like a big... You know what I mean? Is
That'd
that a
be
lot to
a lot.
expect? Because the reason I asked that is both the original Battlefronts had two eras in them. Both of them. Even the very first Battlefront.
Well, I think what... And obviously this is a lot of skepticism. But
You mean... Wait, do you actually mean skepticism?
A little bit with the prequels and the... with the prequels.
I thought you meant we were assuming. And
No,
I was
no,
like,
no,
what
no.
do you mean skepticism?
No.
I'm being hopeful here. Look, you're being a cynical douche.
I'm really tired of it.
You need to get out. This is my room.
No, leave.
Get out. I'm having
tired
company.
of it.
Company's coming over. You're out. No, you're right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying it would be... I think there's a little bit of skepticism here, but it would be ideal if they went into this next game with the prequels and the sequel era blended together and went with that. And sure, maybe have a few nods to the original trilogy, but really focus on those.
You're saying the prequels and Galactic Civil War, right? Galactic, like the 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, without 7. 8,
No, I'm
or...
thinking prequels and 7 and Rogue. Is what I'm thinking.
Instead of Galactic Civil War.
Instead of, yeah.
I would be fine with that. I don't care if Galactic Civil War is in this game.
No, because they totally focused on this one, on Battlefront 1.
And that was something they said before, was that they didn't want to do the same focus. Remember that?
Yeah.
They had said that before. So I do wonder what they're going to do with that. Because I would be more interested in sequels and the prequels as well, actually.
Well, and you had brought up, because I had heard from a few people that they couldn't use the prequels in this next coming game, and then you kind of, completely squashed that.
Well, they can, because the thing is that Disney owns all of Star Wars. They bought the entire licensure, to it, just straight up off the bat. Anything Star Wars, they own. That's their intellectual property.
Because I thought LucasArts was... everything's under that category then?
Yes,
okay.
Everything belongs to Disney. And I know what you're saying, but here is the thing. LucasArts used to make the games. They got shut down. One of the first things Disney did when they bought the franchise was shut LucasArts. It's gone. The original LucasArts is gone.
Okay.
So now they don't have LucasArts anymore, and that's why they gave EA an exclusive, I think it was either 8 or 10 year contract to make these games, these Battlefront games. So they can do whatever they want. Really. They have access to everything. Something we saw in the original Battlefront before they came out was, remember the E3 trailer? They even had access to the props. They were scanning them in. They scanned things into the computer to make them as accurate as possible. They have access to everything. Just they haven't used it.
Because that was my concern, was that they wouldn't even be able to use the prequels. But if they can completely use them, why wouldn't you? There's such a plethora of characters. And
because people didn't like 1 and 2, and then took those frustrations out on 3.
Right.
Which I will agree that I did for a while. I still don't think 3 is perfect, but I would rather... Revenge of the Sith, I would rather exist in the Star Wars universe than not. I don't care either way about 1 or 2. I don't really have a desire to watch them again. They're not very good. They're not terrible.
1.
I think 1 is pretty bad. It's still watchable, though. It's terrible for a Star Wars movie. I think it's okay for just a straight up, you know what I mean? If it was anything else, it'd be I guess I can watch this, it's whatever. But like, because it's Star Wars, it's not. It's held to a standard.
It really is.
And I think it's a somewhat fair standard because you see what it can be.
Right.
And I feel like Disney, when they bought this, because they shut down LucasArts, they stopped Star Wars The Clone Wars when they bought it. They gave them half a season to wrap up the show.
Wow.
Yeah, they said, you're done. You have half a season. Finish it. So the only thing happening right now that I know of, and seriously, if I'm wrong in the comments, definitely correct me on that, because I would like to know. But the only thing that I know of from the prequels that's still going is those comics, and I guess Rebels, if you count it as a continuation. So I think they were trying to just be hands-off with that material, and I think I think it's best the way you put it. By doing that, they missed opportunities to broaden the game. And there are a lot of people that do like the prequels, or at least Revenge of the Sith. So I don't think it would be bad to include those things. And despite disagreements in the level of quality of what we think about Episode 7, I like it more than you do. I think that including that as well would certainly, change the game up a little bit, at least visually. And it would, add more characters that are interesting. Because whether we love or hate the characters from 7 so far, 7 introduced enough characters to probably make a 2 or 3 man team on each side in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
Whereas I would say 4, 5, and 6 struggled to do that with the game.
Yeah. Well, and I think it'd be really cool if Motive Studios, who's making the campaign, if they used this plethora, if they end up using the prequels and the Episode 7 and Rogue, if they ended up using some of those characters in the campaign, and kind of shaped, maybe you either play as one of them or you make your own character and kind of, because it'd be cool to have some customization in this game.
It would. I always love that.
Yeah, so I think that'd be really cool, and I don't know, I think
that was garbage in Battlefront 1 for soldiers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was something you pointed out to me, was that was really bad.
It was really bad. So I think if they maybe went towards that a little bit more. But the CFO said, he's like, we listened to some of the criticisms, and a lot of it, people just wanted more content.
Yeah.
So I think if they just add a bunch of content and use these prequel characters that I now know they can use, and use some of the newer people as well, and kind of just build a sweet game out of that, I don't really see how they can, and really, the content will push itself, and you can use DLC as much as we're not big fans of it. But you can use DLC and you can make it last a lot longer.
But it's also better to not... I don't want to say that they did this because it would be a little slanderous. I don't really know. But the way that a lot of these games release now is it feels like, did you pull something out of this before you put it out? Or was it really this bare,
Right.
And I just don't want Battlefront 2 to feel like that. If I know they're going to use DLC. But I think there's a difference between getting a game, being happy with it, and then them adding more to it, and getting a game and thinking, holy crap, this was $60 to $80, there's nothing here. And then you pay $40 for the season pass, and you get more, and you're like, there is barely enough here to be worth $60. Honestly, I maintain that with the season pass, there's still not enough.
It's really a lot of maps, and there's a couple cool added characters in one, but...
Yeah, barely. What, Greedo?
Chewbacca.
Dengar?
Chewbacca was cool.
He should have just been in the game.
He should have.
Chewie.
He should have been. And I like the Death Star DLC, I guess. But,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I just hope in this next game, kind of like we talked about in the last video, that they, use the multiple eras, like this new news says, and they actually do use it. And now that they're focusing solely on this next game, I think we're gonna start seeing more and more stuff a lot more frequently.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's kind of like Titanfall to Titanfall 2, where I still maintain I don't really know if it was a great idea to release the original Battlefront at the price they did, because a lot of people liked it. Yes, a lot of people didn't like it, and a lot of people just thought it was a missed opportunity. And so I don't know if it's worth hurting the IP of the Battlefront line, to if they mess up again is what I'm going at here. Because there will always be people who love it, but it's kind of like Call of Duty. There's a certain amount of times you can screw up and you will see a loss of revenue at some point. Because it's the real world, and in the real world, if somebody doesn't like what you're giving them, they're probably not going to buy it. So I just want them to do their best, as cliche as that is. Include these things, spice up the content, listen to the fans because they're the ones buying the game, honestly. They're not developing it, but they're buying it, so you have to appease them in some way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't 100% know how to do that. I'm not a game designer, but I do know that more content would benefit the game, and I think Battlefront can really only get better from where it's sitting right now. I just hope that we're not sitting here and, you know, the next one comes out later this year, Battlefront 2. I'm just hoping that we're not sitting here in, you know, 8 months or whatever talking about, man, like, they messed up, you know? That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we're sitting here having a lot of fun.
All right, guys. Well, that's kind of all we got for today. Let us know what you think in the comments section. What are they going to do with Battlefront 2? Are they going to go in the direction that we want, or are we going to get another repeat? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more content. Give us a like, and we'll see you in the next one.